It never fails. It never fails. Have you ever uttered that phrase? Some of you? All right, when do you utter that phrase? So tell me, when does that pop out of your mouth? Give me an example. This is where you have to say something or we'll be here till 1 o'clock. What? When you're leaving for church, it never fails that. Yes. Okay. That was nice. How about another example? It never fails. Go on vacation, flat tire. Awesome example. It never fails when? What else? Nice. You're in the middle of making a recipe and all the sugar's gone. Good. Another example. It never fails. The phone rings when you're doing something where you don't want to answer the phone. Do you want to be more specific? No, you don't. Okay. Fair enough. Jeff, it never fails when? He cannot publicly say it. Very good. Everybody see Jeff? Yes. There you go. Her husband, the fire chief, and also what do we have? Art's hiding back there. There's one. Who's fire here? 1, 2, 3. Is there any more than you three? We have a lot of volunteers and fire people, and it never fails. You go out to do something, and the pager goes off, and away they go. And what? And you're left behind. Any other examples? It never fails. Sue. Wow. Yep. That's my own fault. A, for not sharing my schedule, and B, for calling on her. But she sunk me. She's like raising her hand. I'm like, put your hand down, lady. Put your hand down, lady. Okay. Oh, good one. You get comfortable in the chair and the dog wants to go out. Yes. Oh, it never fails when you're in a bad mood. Your kids can make you smile. And so we'll turn the corner with that. It never fails. Oftentimes is uttered when we experience something that we are not particularly happy about. You're in a hurry and you hit every red light to your appointment. It never fails is a phrase that doesn't always garner the positive affirmation that it possibly can. Jody showed us with the last example that using the phrase is not mutually exclusive to a bad situation, but oftentimes that's when we might first say it. Because we're not really thinking too much, and then something happens, a storm brews up in our life, to use the analogy of the gospel. A storm pops up and we say, never fails. What I can tell you will never fail is that storms will come. That will never fail. The disciples are making a trip on the Sea of Galilee, and they are with Jesus. As you look at the text, if you want to refer to the gospel text on your papers, whose idea was it to move? Or do you remember? Jesus. Jesus is the one who said, let's get to the other side. Let's go to the other side. My next question about the text, how many boats are there? One or more than one? More than one. It clearly says in the text, Jesus got in the boat with some. And then the next sentence is, there were other boats. That's an important point I'm going to want you to remember. And so as they're going, they decide it's time to consult. Because as Jesus sleeps, a storm pops up. I promise you, it never fails. There will be storms in life. It's going to happen. But now, they are experiencing fear. There's Jesus sleeping in the boat. Water's coming over the side. They are being swamped. And they have to make a decision. I'm not quite sure what their decision process looks like. Maybe it looks something like this. If we do wake up Jesus, here's what happens. If we don't wake up Jesus, here's what happens. And so they let that fear take root and project itself to the worst possible conclusion, which would be death by drowning in the middle of the storm. We know they were afraid. Do any of you have that superhero quality as well? Where something is going on and your superhero quality is you will, in your mind, take whatever the situation is and project out the worst possible outcomes. And so there you are, trying to think through what may or may not happen, and your worst outcomes are just popping out. This is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to go wrong, then that's going to go wrong. Just like a cascading, never-ending sense of bad things happening, all of which are just things you're thinking about. It never fails that storms will come, and it never fails that fear is real, and it never fails that we will process those fears in a great number of ways. So the disciples decide to wake up Jesus. I think that's a good choice. They wake up Jesus, and Jesus gets up, and he just calms the storm. And then he looks at his disciples, and he's like, so little faith? What were you worried about? I mean, Jesus is in their boat. Remember, there are other boats. Was Jesus in the other boats? Like literally, physically, not metaphorically or spiritually, but literally, Jesus was in one boat. But that one boat was surrounded, or at least had other boats around it. Do you think those other boats were also experiencing the storm? I think it's safe and logical to say yes. It's not a stretch. But it is the action of the one boat that brings a calm to the storm. So the one boat that has Jesus decides to wake him, and as a result of that action, all the other boats experience a calm. They may or may not know why at this point. One of the things I want to remind you of and myself is that when we go to Jesus, the calm we bring may not necessarily just be for us. You know the comfort you experience when you suddenly realize the problem you have or the pain you experience has been shared by others? It's not pleasant, but it is comforting to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. We all experience storms. We all experience pain and confusion, and many people, I don't want to say all, but many people have that superhero quality of making the worst outcome of every situation before the direction is ever chosen. I think it was a great choice to wake up Jesus. It never fails that when things seem to be going good, something pops up to cause us stress, to break our heart, to crush our spirit. But you know what else never fails? It never fails when you wake up Jesus, that a calm will come. It never fails that you may have to remain in a storm for some time while you think about what might happen or while you think about what you should do. But if you remember Jesus is in the boat, if you remember your faith, if you remember your baptism, if you remember that God has already declared the outcome, God has already declared the destiny to the other side of the storm, God has already placed you in God's hand to bring some sort of calm to the storm you're experiencing. I don't know how that will happen. Yes, it never fails that life brings storms and problems, but you know what else never fails? It never fails that when I am experiencing my worst pain, someone calls and says, hang tough. I was thinking about you and I want you to know this. It never fails that someone responds on the daily prayer and gives me a great affirmation. It never fails that an email may show up. It never fails that perhaps something is resolved outside of my life that I was greatly worried about. It never fails. We need to switch what we say it never fails about. Yes, it never fails that storms in life comes, but it never fails that God loves us. God's love never fails. That's what never fails. It never fails because we were promised by the waters of baptism. You are promised today when I announce to every single one of you here that you are invited to come forward and place your hand out and receive the body and blood of Christ by faith and know that he loves you as you are and desires to bring a calm to you. That never fails in this place. It never fails in this place that we say all are welcome. There'll be storms, and it may not be our boat that brings the peace, but we are together, and someone around us always remembers to shake and wake Jesus. And so indeed, it never fails, but it is God's love that never fails. And so today, I just want to assure you, no matter what is going on in your life, that you do not feel isolated and alone and swamped over and without hope. You have the absolute assurance of God's love and grace and mercy in your life. You may not be able to wake up Jesus today because you're busy processing the problem or you're busy worried about the outcome. But there is someone around you in a boat that knows how to do this. And that calm, that love, that grace will bring such calm, love, and grace into their life that the calm spills over upon you. That's the promise we get by God's love. And so I want you to twist. It never fails when something goes wrong, to it never fails that God's love finds us. That is what we celebrate never failing today. It's God's love.